How's it going, YouTube? My name is Ninja7, your resident Mistweaver monk, and welcome into this new series that you guys have been asking for a very long time. So what this series is going to be is we're going to take a look at some of my kills or a kill on a certain mythic boss, and I'll kind of walk through what I did wrong, what I did right, how I would heal things, how I would heal this boss if I were just starting on the boss, or what I would change on the kill that I have. Now, you guys have said don't show you my best pool. Trust me, the pool that I'm going to show you today is my absolute worst pool yet, so it's going to be good for us to talk about what I did wrong and what I would change. Now, for this video, we're going to be talking about Mythic Gnarlroot. And for a lot of us, most people have already progged this boss by now, but a lot of people are just taking that leap into Mythic, or you might be someone who has been pulling this boss week after week and just maybe it doesn't feel right. Maybe it feels like you're doing something wrong. That is what this video is going to be about. We are trying to be more optimal, play better, and learn from my mistakes. That is the hope. Now, we'll see how the series does, but the hope is that we do a video per boss, at least up until the one that I've killed at this point, which right now we're progging on Tendril, so that might be a while. But, you know, we have enough time to make 6 videos before then. So let's pretend that I'm coming into this boss for the very first time. I know nothing. I've maybe watched like one stanky guide video, but I just don't know timers. I don't know anything. What do I personally do? Well, what I do is I come here to Warcraft logs. I've talked about this in the past, so you might want to skip this part. But I come here to Warcraft logs. I sort by healing. I find the boss that I'm on, so Mythic Gnarlroot, sort by healing. And then I find whatever spec I'm playing, so Mistweaver Monk, I find one of the top parses. It doesn't have to be the top one, but we're going to use this top one for example. And now this is not a perfect system, especially this late into a tier, because one, you'll notice that these guys are 2 healing, and 2, that also leads to their fight being very, very short. So parse runs are not the best example, but the reason why I do this is because I simply just want to see when are they pressing their major cooldowns, and that gives me a guide to at least start with. So I'm at least not going in blind. I have the little bit of information that some of the top players are pressing their cooldowns at this time. So all I do is I find the Mistweaver's healing, I click on them to just funnel it down or boil it down to their healing, and then I click on Ulon. So here I click on Ulon, and you'll see only their Ulon healing. And from here, I press Chi Cocoon because this is what procs right once they press the button, and you'll see right once that Chi Cocoon healing starts or the shield goes on your team, that is when they're pressing Chi-Ji or Ulon. And once again, these timers might change. Like maybe your raid lead has assigned pre-timers, or they've done the research beforehand and they've assigned different timers. That's totally fine. Usually they do that because it lines up versus incoming damage. But this is just a better way to walk into a dark room. You know, if you're gonna pull the boss for the first time, you want to see at least a rough blueprint of when you should press your Chi-Ji. That's literally it. That's all I do before a boss. So now, with that being said, let's go to my kill. And I have a cool little graphic that I made, but this is my kill. So we'll go back a few seconds. And already, I'm playing the normal Tier of Warning build. Now, one thing that I want to show you that I do before the pool is you'll notice here, number one, it's kind of like how Warlocks have to set their gate, have to set their demonic teleport, have to set their lock stones. We have some pre-pool stuff. If you need to press a Transcendence before a pool starts, if you know you're going to use a Transcendence in the same spot every time, that's a good spot to summon. But here, my mouse is hovering my my Jade Serpent statue. Number one, just make sure you have that out. It's just free throughput. But what I'm trying to show you guys is kind of like our pre-pool rotation that I do. So I'm trying to build up my Mana Tea stacks. Now, if you've wiped to the boss, ideally you'll come into you'll wipe with a couple Mana Tea stacks, so you don't have to do this. But before literally every single pool, I just spam Vivify, Enveloping Mist, Vivify, Enveloping Mist on people before we even start the countdown timer. And all that's doing is just pre-stacking my Mana Tea, and I'll show you how I use that. So yeah, we blast through our mana bar, and then hopefully there's a feast or you have some mage cookies to eat those. I've talked about this in the Tier Morning Guide video, but I do this before every single pool so that I have full Mana Tea stacks. Now, all you have to do is just make sure you don't fall to 0 or let those Mana Tea stacks fall off up here on my buff bar. But if you come here to when we actually are about to pull the boss, so we have our countdown timer. So for about 99% of pools, you'll have the same pre-pool rotation. You get your mana tea stacks, and then what do you do with those? Luckily, like our new pre-pool rotation isn't as intense as our old one since we do spend most of it channeling a mana tea. But for the most part, you only need a 10-second timer. You don't really need a 15-second timer, but all you do is right at about 8 or 7 seconds, you apply a renewing mist, which apparently I don't do. Okay, I'm a little late. So you apply a renewing mist, and then you start channeling your mana tea. Now, what's that going to accomplish? Well, that renewing mist will just be free. It'll come off cooldown, and you'll have a lasting renewing mist on someone, but it'll come off cooldown before you finish drinking your mana tea. But you'll also come into the pool with the first 20 seconds of the fight having reduced mana cost. So it just allows your mana bar not to plunge right on your first Ulon or the first couple seconds of a pool. It's literally just a free 20 stack of mana tea. But then from here, let's go and talk about what I do wrong. So right now you'll notice that we pulled the boss, and a big smack of incoming damage happens right once you pull the boss. And I am not Uloning. Like ideally, I want to be Uloning that first smack. So like right here, everyone takes damage, and ideally I Ulon. Now, why is that? Well, one, I didn't Ulon because I hadn't pulled this boss in a couple weeks. But if I show you this graph that I made, so up here, this is my talent build if you guys want to go and be copying that. That's what I use for almost every raid fight. Sometimes I swap out Unison for Legacy of Wisdom. But here on this bottom chart is my Chi Cocoon lineup. So you'll notice that I press my first one here and it gets 0 value. Now, why does my first like Ulon get 0 value? Well, up here, this top chart is the damage taken by the entire raid. So you'll notice this is that first initial slam. It's not life-threatening, but it is healing that needs to be done. But then coming up at like about 30 seconds, you're probably looking at this graph like, why is Uloning at this first peak better than Uloning at the second peak? The second peak is much higher. Wouldn't you rather use your Ulon versus more damage? Well, let's look into the future. This is what I always do when I review my logs. I look into the future to figure out the best timings for me. So let's say that we do use our Ulon at about like 30 seconds. So about right here, we press Ulon, and then we ramp and ramp and ramp, and we can cover this entire like mountain of damage that comes into the raid. That would be great. That would look really good on meters. But let's skip ahead to our next Ulon. Let's go, say we press that 30 seconds. Let's skip ahead to 1:30. Ulon comes off cooldown. What do we do with it? Well, honestly, nothing. There's no incoming damage for the next like 30 seconds, basically, for when you would want to press a Ulon. If you press Ulon right once it comes off cooldown, you're going to cover literally no damage at all. But if you press it, if you save it for 30 seconds, you'll use it right here. But it'll be up at the end. So that one would be pretty good. But this second Ulon, you would lose so much value. So what I am saying is your first Ulon doesn't always have to be the best one. You want to line up, start from the best Ulon. Like the best Ulon would be this minute 15 Ulon. This would be the optimal use of it. So you want it there 100%. So then you have to ask yourself, how can I get it there? Well, one, you could save Ulon this whole entire time and not even press it, or you could just use it right here on pool, cover this big damage instance, and so on and so forth. But here you'll see this is when I choose to Ulon because once again, I was not ready for this fight. I just did not look at logs beforehand. I didn't know that we were going to be re-clearing this night, but it leads to a pretty bad pool that actually kind of went well. So right here, this is my Chi Cocoon. Let's go back to the VOD and let's hit play. So watch this Ulon. Watch what happens. Right now, I chose to deal with that incoming damage with a Thunder Focus Tea because I was thinking if I Thunder Focus Tea to spread a bunch of Renewing Mist, then I can get, I can save my Ulon for about 30 seconds into the pool. And that was the horrible way to do it because look at this Ulon. Oh my God, that was so bad. So let's go back just one more second. So I press Ulon right after the Soothing Mist. So the Soothing Mist actually got some good healing because I had a lot of Renewing Mist out. But then I press Ulon thinking that this is going to do the incoming damage. No, that does nothing. Spawning the seeds does nothing. What really does the big damage is when the big red circles come out around your party. So that's when you ideally want some big healing lined up. So if you do choose to save your Ulon for the second instance of damage, don't use it when I just used it. Use it about 15 seconds later. So about when my Ulon stops getting value is the ideal way to use it if you save it. Or you can cover that first 30 seconds or first 15 seconds with a Ulon. Yeah, that Ulon was horrible. My ramp, all things considered, was pretty good because I spread some good hots and I was chasing those Chi Harmonies, meaning that I was casting my Enveloping Mist into people that had the Chi Harmony. But yeah, right now I'm like, wait, didn't all my hots just fall off and everyone's taking damage? Yes, so I panicked and pressed revival. I was like, I need to get some healing in from that ramp. But oh, that was so bad. So don't make that mistake. Don't come into a fight blind. Just take that 30 seconds to look up Warcraft logs and see when the incoming damage or when people are pressing Chi-Ji is. Or hopefully by the time that you get to a boss, I've made a video like this about that boss. But I'll just play it. I'll stop pausing after every 5 seconds because I just wanted to get that first point out of the way. The best way to improve or to be a mythic raid healer or a mythic Mistweaver is to line up your ramps. We are a ramping playstyle, and the timing of your ramps matters. Now, right here, I only have 5 Renewing Mist out, which I guess is pretty ideal. So there, I basically have 2 options. I'm sitting at 5 Renewing Mists, or let's get there first. So I'm sitting at 5 Renewing Mists, and about 8 or 9 people are taking pretty heavy tick damage. So in this instance, I could either pick a target and channel Soothing Mist and spam Vivifies, which I do, or I could cast a few Enveloping Mists to spot heal these people and cast a few Vivifies to spot heal. So Enveloping Mist one person, Vivify the next, Enveloping Mist, Vivify, that kind of thing. But instead, yeah, like I said, I choose to focus in on pounding Vivifies into one person and letting those cleave onto the other 5 people. I don't think there is a right answer, but I do think watching it back, that just alternating, if I were to cast Enveloping Mist on the Mage, Vivify here on the Hunter, Enveloping Mist on the Evoker, Vivify on this Evoker, I think that would actually end up doing more healing because I'm spreading more Renewing Mist, and all those Enveloping Mists would be also ticking in, kind of mimicking a little bit the ticking healing of our Invigorating Mist if I spam a Soothing Mist. But here, once again, I mean, I do get pretty good Soothing Mist value because I was sitting at exactly 5 Renewing Mist. That's pretty ideal. Here, I forgot what this mechanic does, so I roll out and just start healing people. I have no idea, but right now you'll see people are pretty low. And I have Ulon coming off, and I'm about to waste it again. So I press it again after all the damage. And once again, that Ulon timing was messed up because my first one was too. So if I would have pressed my first one 15 seconds sooner, I would have pressed this one 15 seconds sooner, and I would have soaked up all that healing that I was just doing outside of Ulon. Like all of this damage that's coming into the raid would have been covered by my second Ulon. But once again, like I said, that first Ulon timing really sets up this pool to not be that bad, or not be that good, I'm sorry. But then here, I press Ulon thinking, okay, here we go, we're going into intermission. This will probably be what the damage is. Not at all. But right there, you'll notice that when I press Ulon, I Thunder Focus Tea and then do 2 Enveloping Mists, even though I have a Renewing Mist charge available. And typically you do, your priority when you Thunder Focus Tea in Ulon is to Renewing Mist first to get the haste buff, but also just Renewing Mist first, and then whoever you did that Renewing Mist on, then you do an Enveloping Mist on, because then that instant heal from Enveloping Mist is going to go into their Chi Harmony. But there I chose to do double Enveloping Mist with my 2 Thunder Focus Tea procs. And the only example, or the only reason I can give you, is because I kind of saw that there was no incoming damage happening, and I kind of just ripped the Ulon, and I was like, either the damage is about to happen or there's no damage incoming. So I just fired off 2 Enveloping Mists to get the 2 instant spot heals and to spread more hots. And but in hindsight, since no damage was incoming, I think just Renewing Misting, Enveloping Misting would be a little bit better, but I think it's very minimal. But once again, you're seeing a completely wasted Ulon ramp, like 100% wasted, because once again, my timings were lined up poorly. But you'll still see one thing that I noticed, or I mentioned, was that this parse ends up not being like horrible. I think it was what, a 70. You're not missing much. There's no healing required. A 78. So it wasn't that bad. But here during the intermission, this is a great time for Tear of Mourning outside of Ulon to kind of do its thing. So what you want to be doing is you want to be having a bunch of hots out. I mean, it's a very basic thing to say, but since you're on the move a lot, you want to stop to cast an Enveloping Mist, stop to cast an Enveloping Mist, and then when you move, you want to have a Renewing Mist charge and your instant Vivify available to use while you move. So ideally, you kind of repeat that rotation. So I stop to cast an Enveloping Mist or to spam a Soothing Mist if one person needs more spot healing. But I stop to cast, and then as I move, I use my instant cast stuff. And then that should be very good intermission healing. But right here, also, this is a great time for a Ulon ramp. Once again, but mine is just 5 seconds short, 10 seconds short. But ideally coming out of the intermission, you do get to cover that last bit of healing and all of this healing with the Ulon ramp. But we'll look at graphs again, don't worry. But yeah, this was horrible on my part. And we did lust. That's also would have been a lusted Ulon. Ooh, we would have soaked up so much healing. But notice how here on the meters, my Druid, who did save cooldowns for this big instance, they did line up their cooldowns correctly. They surpassed me there, even though I've been ahead by a good margin for the longest amount of time. And we are 4 healing, but we do have a hybrid DPS healer. But we aren't 2 healing. But from here on out, I noticed that I was pretty low on mana. My mana management has not been amazing, but I've been trying to soak up a couple stacks here and there before I cast a few Enveloping Mists. But it hasn't been perfect, but I knew that we were about to lust and just blast the boss during that DPS phase. So I knew that I could be a bit more wild on the mana. But then here, yeah, once again, my Ulon timing was horrible because I saved it through that big blast phase and I used it here. We can watch this Ulon because I haven't really focused in on a Ulon. Let's, 0.5 speed it. Let's see, 0.5 speed. Let's watch my Ulon ramp, see what I do right. So I have a Thunder Focus Tea going, that's good. Or I have a Thunder Focus Tea available for my Ulon, which is good. Oh man, maybe I went a little too far back. So you'll notice here, I'm casting an Enveloping Mist because there's not too much damage coming in. And I have a couple of Renewing Mist out, but that Enveloping Mist will kind of do some tick healing into the small amount of damage that's coming in. But here I press Ulon. I'm not using my Thunder Focus Tea for some reason. I think I was saving it for a Renewing Mist, so I might use it here. Ooh, this is bad. This is a horrible Ulon ramp. So this is a great example of a bad Ulon ramp. Not just the timings, but a poor execution. I do have 7 Renewing Mists out and have a good bit of Enveloping Mist ticking into people. But I would have a lot more Renewing Mist out if I did use my Thunder Focus Tea. So why is that the case? One, since I did not have a Renewing Mist available, I would have had to use 2 Enveloping Mists with my 2 Thunder Focus Tea stacks. And that would just do a lot of burst healing with those 2 Enveloping Mists and the Renewing Mist that they spawn. Or if I would have saved the Ulon or saved everything or timed my Renewing Mist charges better, having that Renewing Mist on our Thunder Focus Tea and then Enveloping Misting into it, just using Thunder Focus Tea at the start of your Ulon window just sets up your Ulon to be a lot more bursty and to peak higher because you just have more hots during your entire Ulon ramp. But what am I saving Thunder Focus Tea for? Because by now, Ulon's about to fade away and I'm just now using it to apply Enveloping Mist. That was really bad healing by me. I think I saw the boss was dying and I was kind of panicking and I knew that the boss was gonna die. There's no way we die here. But at this point, yeah, I'm probably gonna end the fight with a revival and with my seedling on cooldown and with Life Cocoon. I'm ending the fight with a lot of stuff. We can go back to full speed here. But that was actually a good revival. But we're not going to get a last seedling use. Oh, I try to use it, but the boss dies beforehand. So yeah, all in all, we can sum up my pool to very bad Ulon timings. But we did do some things right. I was casting a lot of good things at the right moment. I did cast a lot of hots when damage was kind of ticking away at my party. But let's look at the graphic one last time. So once again, these are my Chi Cocoons that I applied. This is my total healing, like where I did the most healing. Like I spiked there at the end when I did that Ulon ramp when I pressed revival again. And this is my second Ulon ramp. But notice how like a lot of my healing was going in over healing, because, and you can tell that because if you cut off this cliff here, this mountain, it kind of would have spiked here where there's not a lot of damage coming to the party. A lot of healing went to over healing because right here was when I ramped, and you can tell that because of this graph here, and then there's 0 incoming damage. So I just did a lot of overhealing, and it's just bad Ulon timings. But for the most part, like I said, I was keeping up with my HOTS very well, and as long as you do that on this fight, you'll see very good numbers. But if you learn from my mistakes on the Ulon timers, you should put up some like 80, 90, even like 99 parses pretty easy, because this fight is lined up very well for our ticking HOTS, for Tear of Mourning, and for our Ulon ramps even. But that has been my little walkthrough of Gnarlroot, how I would go back and heal it if I could, and talking about my mistakes on this log or this parse or whatever, and how I prep for fights like these. Now, in future videos, they will be a bit shorter, because in this video, I did kind of talk about some of the pre-pool stuff, but for the most part, it's the same for every single boss. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much to the patrons of this channel. They are the reason why I'm still able to try YouTube and try to do this for a living. So thank you so much to those guys. And if you want to see your name on the screen with these guys, make sure and check out the link down in the description below. But also thank you to the Discord members who have kind of gave me the idea of this video and kind of walked me through what they wanted to see. So if you want your voice to be heard on what my future content looks like, feel free to join my Discord and you know, suggest things to me there, because I have a suggestion channel, and I do follow that for the most part. So thank you so much to those guys. And once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care.